Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this nice and warm day. And I'm Technical Evangelist. My name is Don Wibier, Technical Evangelist with DevExpress. And for all of you that are attending to this session or to any of the sessions of this conference, we, as DevExpress, are offering you a free license of CodeRush. And what is CodeRush? Well, CodeRush is a productivity tool, and one of the really major benefits, if you compare it with other competitive products, is that CodeRush is built on top of Roslyn. And that means that CodeRush is extremely fast in all the things that it does. And it also allows us to create more features, which are, some of them are really mind-blowing. But you can now start testing out and working with CodeRush, but it definitely is a good idea to check this session so I can show you a couple of things to get started, because CodeRush works slightly different from other competitive products because we use a different approach. We think it's it's the most powerful way and the most productive way. But let's get started and show a couple of things here. I have opened up a VisualStudio instance, and this VisualStudio instance, I'm probably not going to even run this application. It is just a typical console application, but I'm going to show you one of the very powerful features that come with CodeRush, which is our templating engine. And this templating engine is smart, and it allows you to save quite a bunch of keystrokes on a regular day. So how does that all work? Well, I mentioned already, I'm hosting this now from Rotterdam, and it is extremely nice weather here. And as soon as it is nice weather, I'm up for a beer. So let's talk a bit about beer, but then let's code a bit of beer. Right, and that will explain a couple of really nice tricks here. So I have this program. It's not really interesting, but let's create a Belgian beer class and do some stuff with it. And later on we'll do some more. But I'm gonna tell you what keys I'll be punching in, and you'll see on the screen what's happening. And it is important that you understand that aspect to make use of this templating engine. So normally, if you would create a class, you need to enter public class Belgian beer. Maybe you put in a constructor and a bunch of properties, and you'll be typing away. But with CodeRush, you can use the first template that I'm going to learn, that I'm going to teach you, and that is the C. I just hit the C key for class, and then I hit the space, which will expand that template. And what you'll see is that a public class, it's public also. That's also one of the things. If you create a new class for VisualStudio, it's always a class. It's never a public class. And I can now start typing Belgian beer. I hit enter after I've finished my Belgian beer. And what you'll see is that the cursor jumps right into the body of the class, and I can start adding a property. For instance, a name. So that was also quite quick, huh? So let me do that in slow motion and tell you what I've done. In this case, I've done it wrong because I didn't want to have an integer, so I'm going to remove it anyway. I hit the A for an auto-implemented property. These codes all make sense after a while. A from auto-implemented property. I hit the S because I want it to be a string. And then I hit the space again, and then it will give me this. And so I can now say name. I also want to, so what I basically did now, I typed AI space name, I hit enter, and I am where I am right now. So just a bunch of keystrokes, but not as much as you would normally do. I want to have a brewery as well, and that brewery is also of the type string. So now I can use my smart copy function. What I'll do is I'll hit Shift Enter. And what it does, it copies that line that I was at, and it also determines that it's a property. So it will highlight the type. I could change it, but I just hit Enter. I'll do brewery, and I'm done. So with the least amount of keystrokes possible, I hit Shift Enter, hit Enter again to skip to the name, and I change the name, and that's it. Yeah, I could also create a full property, so with a backing store. And for that, I'll just hit Enter now, and I want to have the volume of this Belgian beer bottle. So that volume is going to be a property, which is the P. So not auto-implemented. It's going to be of the type integer. I hit space, and it will now give me this code. And if I now start changing the name to volume, what you'll see is that also the private member is being changed. And you might wonder, why isn't that thing private explicitly? Well, that's one of the settings that you can do in CodeRush. You can have it like this, or you can tell CodeRush to explicitly make it private. Yeah, but in this case, it's even less code. So we have discussed a couple of things now. I did C space Belgian beer. I hit Enter. I did AS space name, hit Enter. I did Shift Enter to get to brewery. I hit Enter to skip from string to brewery. And I did PI volume. And I changed it to volume. So that was just a few keystrokes, right? But CodeRush can do way more, because you have seen me using those templates, but you can also define your own templates. If I would go to this Belgian beer, I right click it in this case, I can specify use type in templates. And now I can set up my own code. In this case, I will call it BB, Belgian beer. Yeah. I'll hit add, and I have now just created my first template. Let's do something else and create another class so we can actually use that template. I will now be constructing a beer case. And well, for that, I will hit C space beer case, hit enter. I write into the body. And what I want to do now is I want to have a generic list with Belgian beers. So another template, I'm going to combine two of those templates now. I'm going to do NL for list. I hit the dot. That's going to be the generic list. And I'm now going to specify the BB. And what it'll do, it will expand this to a generic list of type Belgian beer. That was the template that I just created myself, remember? So again, very quickly set up. But now we haven't talked about methods. Well, it is only too bad that I'm not in front of you face to face, because then I could actually do a pop quiz. But I'm now going to create a method which allows me to add a beer to the case. Well, we have used the A for auto-implemented property. We've used the P for a regular property. So what would be the template for a method? I guess you're all saying it right. It's going to be the M. In this case, it's going to be a void because it's just adding one. And what I do now is I hit M space and it's giving me this. I can change this now to add beer. And now I can actually pass in this Belgian beer variable and have it added inside the case. You might wonder, like, yeah, but this is like a private member, so I can't do anything with it. Well, if I hold down the Alt key and I hit the up arrow key, I can cycle through the visibility of this method. I'm just punching in the up key or the down key together with the Alt key. And now I have my public void beer. Okay? So CodeRush is all about, being as efficient as possible. One of the other examples is if I want to copy these beers to the clipboard, normally you would need to double click it or select that whole word. But I cannot just be at that word, hit Control C in one go, and it is entirely selected. So this is just a quick thing that will save you quite a bit of keystrokes on an average day. So let's do another method and show you another template here. I'm going back here, and I want to calculate the total volume of the bottles in my beer case. So for that, I will use the M for method. I will use the I for integer because the volume was integer. I'll hit space, and again I get a method which returns an integer. And in this case, I will name it calculate total volume. Again, I want to make this public because I might want to call it from my program. So by holding down the Alt and the up or down arrows, I can cycle through the visibility. I hit enter again, and you see that I am jumping right into the body of this method. Another template that we have is something to, because this method is going to return something, which we would typically call a result instance, right? So for that, we have a template as well. And what's quite cool is if I hit RI for result instance, I hit space, CodeRush will actually check what the return type of this method is, and it will declare the variable on the same type, right? Now, okay, so for some of you, you might think you can do this another way, but I just want to demonstrate you this approach. So now what we need to do, we can do it two ways. We can use link to sum up the volume in all the beers, but in this particular demo, I want to demonstrate you the for each statement. And the for each statement also has a code combination to be triggered. In this case, it will be FE. Normally, I would ask you this on the spot, and I would see you think like, it must be FE. And then I say, good to go, guys. I hit space, but take a good look what CodeRush did. And this is typically a trick which works nicer face-to-face, but maybe next year. Everything is looking good. It expanded it to for each, but it also did Belgian beer in beers. Why? How did it came to that? Well, CodeRush is smart. CodeRush monitors everything that you do, and it's possible because of Roslyn. It noticed that I have copied these beers in the clipboard. Remember I was showing you the other trick? Well, while expanding this for each, CodeRush determined, hey, beers is on the clipboard. I'll check by using Roslyn what kind of type it is. Hey, it's an IEnumerable. So it is highly likely that you want to enumerate through the beers collection. So that's what I would say pretty smart. And now you can actually implement it. So for this, I would obviously set this one to 0, and I'll say result plus equals Belgian beer dot volume. And I typically already typed in what I needed to type in, and CodeRush did the rest for me. So quite some powerful features here. But it goes even further. So for instance, maybe I have specified that beer, let me scroll up here, the beer had a brewery. And maybe I want to calculate the volume of all the beers of a specific brewery in that beer case. I mean, specifications change in your application. You need to change some functionality here and there. Well, that is also quite simple, because what I can do is, let me first do something here. I'll copy in a bit of code. In my main application, which is just to save myself a bit of time here, I'm building the beer case, putting in 10 bottles here, and in this case I had the alcohol percentage. Let me remove that one. Well, what I could actually do is, the alcohol percentage is not in here. I can activate CodeRush, and I can say that I want to have this as a parameter in my, let me see. I want to have this property in my beer method. So in this case, I will have this auto implemented. And what I will do, I can actually specify what I want to have it. It has put in my alcohol percentage inside the beer. And so this is how simple this works with CodeRush. But what I wanted to do now is, in this case, I have specified a number of things here. The beer is still complaining because this add beer needs to have a parameter. And so let me do this like this. Enumerable Belgian beer to make the error go away. I'll call it like this. So this should be able to make that go away. But anyway, what I wanted to show is that beer case. Still not sure why it does this. Name, brewery, alcohol percentage. Yeah. This is going to be, of course, it shouldn't be an enumerable. It should be just a Belgian beer, obviously. That was it. It is. This is going away, but now I want to calculate the total volume inside the beer case. So console write line, and for this I will say calculate total volume. It will calculate it. But as I mentioned, specifications change. We want to be able to filter it on brewery. So for that, I would need to add a parameter here. Or I would create a new method, but I would rather create a new parameter here. So what I'll do, I'll activate CodeRush, and I say add a parameter. What's happening is, if I type in string brewery, it jumps immediately to the first occurrence of this method call, and it will insert something here. And I could now say, I don't know, name is on beer, like this. And so this, and then it will go to the next reference. Through your entire project, it will insert something so your project still builds. And so quite clever, I'd say. Another thing is, because specifications change, I need to add a certain volume. So I want to be able to calculate the small bottles. In that case, I will activate CodeRush again by hitting Control backtick. And in this case, I'll add a parameter, and I'll say everything which is 100 milliliters. In this case, it will jump right back up, and I can just change that name, and I'm all set. So, and with this, I think there are a whole bunch of more features, but what you have seen me do is pretty much, just a couple of keystrokes, and I created all this stuff. There are a couple of other things which are quite interesting here. one of the things is so-called rich comments. So what does that mean? Well, suppose you need to do, for next Monday, you'll need to calculate the alcohol percentage. So I'm going to create a method. I'm still not sure what it should return. Calculate alcohol percentage. But I mean, it's Friday now, and I really don't know probably what I've done on Friday when it's Monday. So I want to insert something here which will remember what I was doing. For this, we can use rich comments. And how does that work? Well, I'll comment something here. I need to do something here, and I can just copy something on the clipboard and paste it right in here. So what I did, I copied an image to the clipboard and I just pasted it in my code. So I'm pretty sure on Monday, well, depending on the weekend, that I will find this beer, or I don't want to find it. But anyway, I see what I was on Friday. But now we need to calculate that alcohol percentage, which is also quite a difficult thing. So for that, I've already Googled a bit around, and it seems that there is some formula involved, which I can also specify in rich comments. And for that, I'm not entirely sure what it meant anymore, but if I just put in my comment opening tag, and I'll hit, and I'll put, this was the wrong one. And I put something in like this. This is just, it is putting in, let me get rid of this. I obviously prepared this formula because the rich comments also support latex formula. So if you need to calculate something quite complex, let me have a quick look why it didn't paste it as text. Actually, that was the whole plan. Yeah, so it should be. I could actually paste in this formula as a comment and get back to this after the weekend. Normally, let me put it on top of here. That is just, yeah, here we are. So I have used a latex formula to actually insert this formula. It has something to do with the calculation of your beer alcohol percentage, but I'm not entirely sure what it does. But I thought it was an interesting formula anyway to show you. So I can just paste this in as a comment. And once I start on this method, I can actually look at that formula and wonder, what was it again? But anyway, I have it here in a visual representation. So these are just a couple of things that can be done with CodeRush. And as you can see, what I've done, this is quite simple to check actually, because if you go with the cursor on the line, you'll see if I start the comment with a less than formula, and this is latex, it will format it as you just saw. So I think with this, you'll have enough stuff to get you started with. There is another thing that I would urge you to check out. I opened this up in the web browser. We have a so-called CodeRush cheat sheet. And that cheat sheet is very nice because it has a couple of things. I did close the window, I guess. Or was it here? Now let me open this up. I just search for cheat sheet CodeRush. And that will bring you immediately to this PDF that you can actually print out yourself. And this holds a whole bunch of those features. I've just showed you a couple, but now it makes a bit more sense. And so if you want to navigate, for instance, to a next reference, that's also something which is extremely cool. Suppose I want to go from the Belgian beer to the first reference in my code. I can just stand on Belgian beer, I hit tab, and I tap through my entire project, or shift tab to get back, and I'll hit all the references to this particular type. So that's something that is on this, let me make it a bit bigger, on this cheat sheet. So it's definitely worth printing this out and have it on your desk and check it every now and then. Yeah. So with this, I'm going to end this small presentation on CodeRush. If you have any questions about CodeRush, you can contact me, but even better, go to devexpress.com/CodeRush or use our support, because we have some amazing support also on CodeRush, and there is lots of information on how to do things quicker with CodeRush. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that you can really benefit from our free license of CodeRush for you.